ever heard a family member talk about a story or a family event or situation and wondered, did we grow up in the same family? Or maybe it was a meeting or a conversation that you had at work and you wondered, were we in the same conversation? Did we attend the same meeting? It's all about perception. And when it comes to change, perception matters. In today's video, I'm going to share with you 3 ways perception impacts your change efforts and 3 questions that will help you work with, not against, the various perceptions of your changes in your organization and allow you to create healthy and sustainable change in your organization. Hello, I'm Dr. Dawn-Marie Turner, President of Turner Change Management and creator of the Readiness Mindset. Look at the picture. What do you see when you look at that picture? I took this picture while on a ferry from Sultry Bay to Horseshoe Bay in British Columbia. Initially, all I saw was gray sky, water, and the mountains. But then an image began to emerge, the head of a sleeping giant. Can you see it? Don't worry if you can't see it. My husband couldn't see it either, at least not at first. But now, that's all we see when we look at this picture. That's perception. Nothing has changed about the picture except the way our brain is seeing the inputs to that picture. And that's the power of perception. And it's a driving force when it comes to change in your organization. It's success or it's failure. Our perception is how we see the world. It defines what we pay attention to and what gets ignored. Neuroscientist Heather Berlin states, our perception is formed when our past experiences and beliefs, which determine what we expect, are combined with what is coming into our brain externally from our environment. When the internal and the external meet, our perception is formed, and that is what we experience. Since no 2 people have the same combination of experiences, every person's perception is different. That's why you can grow up in the same family and your stories will be different. Or attend the same meeting as your colleague, but come away with a different interpretation of what was said or what happened. Gaining insight into how your change efforts are perceived is critical to building readiness, preventing resistance, and achieving your desired results. Perception is one of the 4 markers of the white space. Recall that the white space is that space between where we are when an event has occurred or a decision to do something different is made and where we need to be to achieve the desired results or outcome. Perception exerts a powerful influence. For example, senior and middle managers often hold different perceptions of the same change. For a senior executive, that change may be viewed as innovative, necessary, even easy. But for the middle manager, he may also see the change as innovative, but risky. And the cost and the disruption to the operation, too high for the expected results. Failing to acknowledge and address potential differences in perception can hurt your change efforts. Perception will impact your change efforts in at least 3 ways. First, the beliefs you and others hold about an individual change event are based on your history with change in the organization, your beliefs about yours and the organization's capability, past experiences, expectations, and the beliefs you have about how people respond to change. Perceive the change as a threat, and you'll respond accordingly. Alternatively, perceive the change as an opportunity, and you're more likely to be open to the event and explore the possibility. It's the same thing with resistance to change. If you believe that people are resistant to change and that your role is to manage the resistance, then all those questions, the concerns, the complaints become evidence of resistance. But if you're working with a readiness mindset and you believe people will embrace change, then those same questions, concerns, complaints are interpreted as an indicator of readiness, and you will respond differently. Perception also impacts your communication efforts. As a leader, it'll influence the information you provide, the way it is provided, active or passive, and who and how the information and the communication is done within the organization. For the people affected by the event, perception influences how the information is interpreted. It is our perception that determines the assumptions and judgments we make when we hear, or even if we hear the information, and then within that, what we do and what we pay attention to. For example, let's say you've been talking about and sharing information about that new software upgrade in the finance department. You've been doing it for weeks, and you believe that you have been open and transparent to all of the people affected. You meet with the vice president of marketing to talk about some of the changes that will be needed in her department. And she responds as if she is hearing about this for the very first time. That's because her perception was it's an upgrade for the finance department. And although she was part of all of that communication, her perception that it was finance and not marketing meant her filters were not attuned to the information. Another important but often overlooked influence of perception on communication is the way it influences what is not said and what is read into any communication about your change efforts. Another important aspect of change that perception impacts is yours and everyone else's willingness to act. That is perceived capability. Perceived capability is another of the 4 markers of the white space. Perceived capability is your belief about your ability to engage in an activity or behavior. And it is a powerful predictor of behavior, regardless of the benefits of the change, training, or skill. I've done an entire video on perceived capability, and I will post that in the show notes below. When we're working to enable change in our organization, we need to work with perception and not against it. It can be easy to fall into the trap of dismissing another person's perception that is different from yours as inaccurate or wrong. That's a mistake. When it comes to change, whether organizational or personal, the adage perception is reality is true. Leaders and everyone else have different views of the organization. Therefore, it's not surprising that they have a different perception of the need for change, its outcome, and its complexity. When you learn to work with the various perceptions of change, you set yourself and all of the people affected up for success. Here are 3 questions that you can ask that will help you work with perception and not against it. First, ask yourself, how does my perception of the current change initiative differ from my team, my colleagues, my employees, or the other people that are affected? Second, what influence are your beliefs and knowledge of the change event and the organization having on your perception of it? And third, what influence are the beliefs of the other people affected, your employees, your colleagues, your team members, and their knowledge of the change event having on their perception of the change initiative? I hope you found this video helpful. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye for now.